If your loved one came to you and said, I have depression, do you know what you would say? We tell people who are depressed, they should tell someone, they should get help, they should lean on someone for support. But those of us who are on the receiving end of the conversation, how we respond is really critical. I have a little bit of personal experience with depression, and I have a lot more experience being the friend or family member or support system and having to hear that conversation. And I've learned that what I say in those times really means something as far as how that person responds, how our friendship or relationship continues, and whether that person feels that they can rely on me moving forward. The first thing that you want to be aware of when you hear a loved one say, I'm struggling with depression, is you don't want to push back on them. The instinct can be when someone tells you that they're depressed is to say, but what do you have to be depressed about? Things are going so well for you. You have a family who loves you. Your career is going really well. This doesn't make any sense. Depression is a liar. Depression doesn't care how much money you make or what your job title is or how many people think you're the best person in the world. Depression tells you that you're stupid and you're unlovable and you're never going to be successful. When we hear someone say that they're depressed and we try to counter logically with all these reasons why they shouldn't be depressed, depression doesn't work like that. And all that's going to happen is your friend or loved one is going to think they don't get it. They can't talk me out of this. They don't get it. This isn't someone that I can turn to. Instead, you want to empathize with them. You want to say, wow, you shouldn't have to feel that way. You shouldn't have to live your life like that. That must be really hard. Not you shouldn't feel that way, but you shouldn't have to feel that way. I'm incredibly sorry that you're having to struggle with that. You shouldn't have to live like that. You see the difference? Not you shouldn't feel like that, but man, that must be hard. You shouldn't have to feel like that. The next thing, and this one's really hard for me, is I want to jump in and help. When somebody tells me something like this, I want to say, oh, I know a really good therapist. Do you want the phone number or the email address? I want to fix it because I love my loved ones and I want them to be okay and I just want to help everyone. But I can't. Another issue with depression is that because it tells you you're stupid and you can't do all of these things for many people, they might begin to feel powerless or helpless. If you start to solve the problems for them, especially when they haven't asked for that kind of help, you're actually just underscoring, you're powerless. You can't really do this for yourself. You need me to solve these problems for you. And that can actually compound those feelings, that voice in the head, and just make it worse. Instead of solving problems for them, again, step back, empathize, and say, this is really serious. I want to help you in the best way that I can. Do you have any ideas for how I can be the best help for you? And hopefully they'll have some ideas. If they don't, maybe you can throw out some options like, do you just want me to be a listening ear when you need to talk about it? Do you want me to call you every couple days and check in? Do you want me to do some research for you on mental health professionals? What would be helpful to you? Put the ball back in their court because they really have to take point on helping themselves with this problem. You trying to help them, I know it feels good to you and you think that you're showing your love, but it doesn't make it better. And finally, in this conversation, and this is a tough one, you need to not be afraid to ask the question, are you thinking about hurting yourself? I've heard people say they don't want to bring that up because if the person isn't thinking about suicide, they don't want to put that thought in their head. I promise you, you are not going to make anyone think about committing suicide if they weren't already thinking that. And if you shy away from that question, the other person's going to know and they're going to sense it. They're going to sense they can't talk about that with you and they're going to realize this isn't, I can't discuss this with this person. They're not safe. I have to block off a part of what I'm feeling about this and this isn't a place that I can have this conversation safely. If you bring it up, if you're brave enough to ask that really difficult question, they're going to know that they can come to you with anything. You may not want to hear the answer, but it's an answer that you need to know. So don't be afraid to ask that question. It shows that you're willing to be uncomfortable for them. And it shows that you're brave enough to have a difficult conversation that the other person may really need to have. If you follow those 3 guidelines, that's going to help you. You can't fix this. You can't fix depression for another person. Everyone with depression is different. There's no one right way to talk to anyone. But if you go into the conversation with an open mind, don't solve their problems for them, and you're willing to really talk about the nitty-gritty, then you're going to be a great support system to a loved one when they're facing depression. And you're going to handle that conversation with grace and poise the way they need you to.